Good evening, my friends. Welcome to Biomechanic Club channel. Today we are going to study cephalometric X-ray using Steiner analysis. Steiner analysis depends on some landmarks. Now we are going to locate them. First one is Sella torsica, and the second one is Nasian. Third one is A point for maxilla and P point for mandible. To study the rotations or vertical assessment of the mandible, we use Gnatian and Gonian. By connecting the 2 points, Sella and Nasian, we get Sella-Nasian line here. First of all, we're going to start the assessment the maxilla. Using A point, by connecting the NA point, we get an angle here. This angle should be 82 degrees. More than 82 degrees, we consider the maxilla skeletally protruded, and we call it prognatic maxilla. Less than 82 degrees, we consider the maxilla skeletally retruded, and it's called retrognatic. After the maxilla, as we did to A point, we connect N to P point. And the same, we have an angle. This angle should be 80 degrees. As we did to maxilla, more than 80 degrees, we consider the mandible is protruded, skeletally protruded, and it's called prognatic mandible. Less than 80 degrees, we consider that the mandible is retruded skeletally and called retrognatic mandible. Here, after studying each jaw alone to skeletal, to cranium, now we have to assess the relationship between these two jaws to each other. So using the angle ANP, we connect A point to N and B point to N. We have this angle. It should be in normal range 2 degrees. More than 2 degrees, that means that we have a skeletal discrepancy between the maxilla and the mandible. These 3 angles that we talked about, it assists the anterior-posterior relationship of the maxilla to cranium and mandible to cranium and maxilla to mandible. Anterior-posterior skeletal assessment. To study the vertical assessment, we have the, as we did the Gonian point and Gnatian point landmarks. We connect these 2 landmarks to have the mandible plane. And using SN line here, if we move this line parallel up to SN line, we have an angle. This angle should, in normal cases, in normal range, we have, should be 32. More than 32, that means that the mandible is clockwise rotated, and we see a long face or dorsal face. Less than 32, that means that the mandible is counterclockwise rotated, and we have a short face or brachy face. And in normal range, we have this angle should be 32 degrees in meso face types and normal face long. After assessing the vertical skeleton and anterior posterior. Next, we assess the occlusal plane, and the same using SN line here, and draw the occlusal plane line. If we move it up to SN, like this way, this angle should be 14. In normal cases, it should be 14. If this angle is more than 14, that means that the occlusal plane is rotated clockwise, and we call it a steep occlusal plane. If it's less than 14, that means that the occlusal plane is rotated counterclockwise, and it's called flat occlusal plane. And in normal cases, it should be 14 degrees. After finishing the skeletal assessment and occlusal plane assessment, here we start assessing the anterior incisors, upper and lower, using the long axis for each incisor, upper incisor, and the long axis of lower incisors. First of all, we start assisting the upper incisors. The line, our reference line that we use to assess the upper incisor is by connecting the NA point or Nasion point to A point, like this way. Now we study the relationship between the long axis, the angle of long axis of this upper incisor to NAA point. This should be 22 as an angle, 22, and the distance between the tip of upper incisor to this line should be 4 millimeters. This is the ideal or in normal range of the upper incisors to NAA point. The same we do for lower incisors. We draw the long axis of the lower incisor like this way, but we don't use here NAA line. We use NAB line. For lower incisors, NAB line. For upper incisors, NAA line. Here we have an angle. This angle should be 25 degrees, and the distance between the lower incisor, the tip of lower incisor to this line should be 4 millimeters. This is the normal range of lower incisors. After assessing the lower incisors and upper incisors, here we assess the upper and lower to each other by drawing the long axis of the upper incisor and lower incisor. Here, by intersecting these two lines, we have an angle here. This angle, according to Steiner, should be 131. 131. If this angle is less than 131, that means that we have bimax protruded. Great. So this is the analysis of Steiner, to use it to analyze the patient cephalometric X-ray. I hope you like it. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.